welcome back to my YouTube channel, and you are watching The Nerdy Grail. Now, in today's video, this is actually a review, because today is finally the day. Today was the day I finally got to watch the first two premiere episodes of the new MCU TV show that went up on Disney Plus called Agatha All Along. And wow, was it a wild ride for the first two episodes. I actually really enjoyed it for a change, and it's been a while since I've really enjoyed an MCU show, because for me, they've been a little bit hit or miss, really. To start with, like WandaVision and Loki and Falcon and the Winter Soldier, I think were fantastic, but we've also had a few misses as well. But it was a fantastic double billing, and apparently the finale is also going to be a double billing as well. Episodes 8 and 9 will also premiere together on the same day. So I think that's a really interesting choice, really. But I'm going to be, in this video, discussing both of the episodes. There will be some spoilers, so if you haven't watched the episodes, please stop the video, go and watch the episodes, and then come back and continue the review, because I do not want to spoil it for anyone. So I'm going to shortly review both episodes, starting with episode 1. I do have some notes because as I was watching it, there was so much to take in that I had to jot down some notes for this video. So episode 1 is titled, Seekest Thou the Road? So I will just pause the video, give you a chance to click off if you do not want any spoilers, and I'll be right back with reviewing episode number 1. Okay, so we are now going to talk about episode 1, Seekest Thou the Road? Now obviously this series of Agatha All Along does follow on from the events that took place in WandaVision, and yes, I did decide to bring my Disney Plus physical media limited edition steelbook of the WandaVision series just as a little bit of a demonstration to show you what I mean, which this is a fantastic series which I highly recommend you check out. But this does follow on from the events of that series, so we follow on with Detective Agnes, as she is being called. She is a detective, police investigator who has been called back off her disciplinary to handle a case that apparently only she can solve. They find a dead woman in the middle of the forest, and she is tasked with finding out who killed her, why, how did she end up in the middle of nowhere, really. But strange things start to happen. There's a really cool character, a copper character called Herb. I quite like that name, I thought that was quite funny. He sort of talks with Agnes about the case. Agnes, in this episode in particular, she seems very stern, very cold-hearted at times. She's sort of a bit snarky at times. She's sort of playing the bad cop, really, the cool cop. I quite like her character in episode 1. I think it's really cool. And I would have liked to have seen that crossover more in future episodes. But they do try to obviously bring Agatha back quite quickly into the series as well, because there is a lot to delve into. So after they have a bit of a talking to, well, she's still Agnes at this point. Agnes goes to the library to talk to the librarian there called Dottie, who tells her about some books that have gone missing. And she's scanning up and down the library and finds one shelf of books that are completely burnt. There's a hole burnt right through them. It seems like someone has lit it on fire or someone shot something straight through it. But all the books on that shelf are pretty much burnt to a crisp, as a guy on the other side of the counter says, that every copy has been destroyed. Then after that, Agatha goes back to work. Sorry, I keep calling her Agatha, but that's pretty much who she is. But Agnes goes back to her police headquarters, where she meets up with her chief, who says that she's going to have to be teamed up with this new agent who has a bit of history with Agnes. They don't seem to get on. Agnes is not very happy with this, and she voices her disgust quite openly, really. She then stays in work quite late, goes home really late. Her boss tells her to go home. When she goes home, she gets a visit from, I believe her name was Agent Vidal. I can't quite remember. I think it is. If it isn't, I will put on the screen the correct name, but I'm fairly certain it was. And she comes over, offering her pizza, offering her to chat, but really there's a secret motive behind that. They sort of have a bit of a long chat talking about their past. However, Agnes brings up that she's travelled to lots of places around the world. You know, she's a bit of an explorer. And when questioned by the agent, she can't quite give her an answer. There's like little grey areas in her past. She can't quite remember things, and that seems quite strange. She can't recall her past, really. All her life, she just focuses in on work. So that's sort of an indication that something's not quite right with Agnes. They hear a commotion upstairs, and a robber then breaks into Agnes's house. She chases the robber down, captures him, and takes him back to the interrogation room in work, where she plans on interrogating him, finding out everything that's happened, what's going on. But as she is questioning him, things are not all as it seems. When she shows the boy the pictures of the dead woman, all he sees is like fields and a fence and flowers, whereas Agnes can only see the dead body. And then he points out that the window that the agent is looking in, viewing the interrogation, is actually just a painting on the wall. And so Agnes goes a bit crazy. She's not sure what's going on. It's freaking her out. And then after that, the guy starts to mention something known as the road, which triggers Agnes in the first place to start freaking out. So then Agnes goes to visit the morgue, where the body of Jane Doe is being kept after, obviously, the events of the killing. And at first the body's not there, then it appears. She starts describing what the body looks like, talking about how it has scarlet hair as well, and pieces of scarlet hair start to come from under the drapes. As she checks then the name tag that's attached to the foot of the dead body, magical writing starts appearing on it as W. Maximoff, which, as we know, is actually talking about Wanda Maximoff, because, as we will then find out, Agnes is actually trapped. Still trapped, I think they said 3 years in total in Wanda's spell, because at the end of the WandaVision series, once Agatha comes out as the main villain, Wanda defeats her and puts a spell on her, holding her in this little pocket void dimension thing, using the powers of the Darkhold. But apparently, now that obviously Wanda is supposedly gone and all the Darkhold has been destroyed, Agatha can now apparently escape. She's not being held back by anything anymore, and the agent comes in and sort of convinces her that you're not actually a detective, none of this is real, your real name is Agatha. And she starts taking off the detective gear, and you see different layers and different costumes that Agatha wore in season 1 or in the WandaVision series. You see her turning into black and white, you see her turning into like this fitness yoga outfit, which I vaguely remember her wearing, until obviously it strips right the way back, and then the screen fades to white and Agatha is back, but she's completely naked. But now Agatha's returned. Shocked, she runs outside screaming. She sees Herb in his garden, and Herb has a conversation with her saying that basically everything was just a lie, really. You know, you weren't really a detective. I wasn't really like a partner or a colleague. That's not really your police chief. You know, we sort of just played along, you know, a bit like in the WandaVision series, where everyone was playing along to sort of just please Wanda, really. So she's sort of broken out of the spell at that point. And after breaking out, then she obviously finds out everything's a lie. And at the end, she finds out, obviously, that the agent is actually her arch enemy, who invades her house and starts attacking her. They have a bit of a tussle, and Agatha sort of convinces her to let her try and get her powers back, because Agatha is powerless, because all of her powers came from the Darkhold and they're all gone now. And so she basically begs for her life, really. And then the agent character, then, who we find out is called Rio, basically says that I will allow you to try and get your powers back so I can come back and fight you, basically. But you need to watch out because there's this group called the Salem 7 who are going to come after you because there's a lot more people than just me who want you dead. So basically warns her of that. And we discover that the boy who Agatha was interrogating is actually locked in her cupboard because obviously everything didn't happen the way it was, so she didn't actually arrest him, take him to be interrogated, and then left him there. She actually kidnapped him and locked him in the closet. So he's actually still in the house. And so, yeah, the episode sort of ends there with this, I'm finally back, but we need to now find a way of walking the road. So overall, I think episode 1 was a fairly interesting start to the series. I would probably give it roughly maybe like a 7 out of 10. I think it was fun, it was interesting. I enjoyed seeing the character of Agnes and building up this sense of mystery. I just wish it could have lasted a little bit longer. But that is episode 1. However, I'm also going to briefly talk about the events of episode 2 as well, which is titled Circle Sewn with Fate, Unlock Thy Hidden Gate. So if you do not want any spoilers, click off the video now, go and watch episode 2, and we will get right into the review of episode 2 very shortly. I will be right back. Okay then, so if you're still watching, we are now going to review episode 2, which is Circle Sewn with Fate, Unlock Thy Hidden Gate. And again, I'll just remind you, I apologise if I'm looking down a little bit. I wrote a lot of notes when reviewing these episodes because I wanted to make sure that I got things right and I didn't miss anything out. But yeah, so episode 2 carries obviously straight on from the events of episode 1. Now that Agatha is now back, not necessarily in full power, but she knows how she can get her power back. So, obviously, I said before that the boy was still tied up in her house, in Agnes's house, but asks Agatha wants to run away to flee from the Salem 7 before they come to basically kill her. And he basically says, no, can you please take me to what's known as the Witch's Road, which is said to give you everything which you most desire. Which then obviously Agatha thinks, well, if I go back down this road, because we find out apparently she did this before, if I go back down this road, then maybe I can get my powers back so that I can defend myself and be this all-powerful witch again. But however, this boy is very, very strange, as whenever Agatha tries to find out anything about him, as we'll find out through the episode, for example, she tries to ask him what his name is, and he just can't. Every time the name starts to appear, his mouth almost gets like sewn shut, or this magical force comes over his mouth, and Agatha can't actually hear his name. So I'm hoping we're going to find that out later on in the series as well. But they have to go and find other witches and form a coven in order to access the door to the road. And that's sort of what this episode is. It's Agatha and this new boy character going off, well, Agatha calls him Teen for the whole episode. They go to recruit the members that will be the team that will help them make it down the road, basically. So, first off, they go to find a divination caster who is called Lilia, I believe her name was. And they start having a conversation about the road. Agatha sort of pretends to be like a mother and a son in order to trick her into revealing that she is the witch they're looking for. Agatha convinces her to join, by saying that she can actually only steal other witches' powers by, them striking them first, because a lot of these witches know of Agatha Harkness and do not want anything to do with her, so she has to do a lot of convincing. Eventually, obviously, Lilia does concede and writes down 4 names of crew members that Agatha needs to find, not realising that her name is actually on there as well. So they have to then go off and find the other members and then all meet back up at Agnes's house to summon the door, pretty much. So after that, they head out. And the next one is a woman called Jen, who is said to be really good with potions, because they need someone who's good with potions to help them down the road as well. They convince Jen by basically almost threatening to expose her and finding out information that she's in a bit of legal trouble as well, after some dodgy facial care stuff had all gone a bit wrong. So basically saying, you know, you don't really want to be locked away in prison, you know. You need to come down the road with us, get your powers back, be this all-powerful being. You don't want this life. So they sort of use that against her. And then after that, they need to go find a blood witch, the daughter of a blood witch known as Lorna Wu. And the daughter's name then is Alice Wu. And they sort of try to convince her into joining the team by them saying, would you like to find out whatever happened to your mother after she had supposedly died? So that sort of tries to convince her. Initially, she's not convinced. She tells them that the road is actually a myth, a con. It's not real. But later on in the episode, we do find that she does arrive and does help them to open the door. Then later on, after that, on the way back to the house, Agatha and the boy start talking again in the car. Agatha asks about the boy's past. Where did he come from? However, when he starts to talk, it's almost like his voice gets muffled and drowned out. You can't actually hear what he's saying. Whereas everything else is clear. You can hear the birds outside. Agatha plays with the radio and you can hear that the radio's working fine. It's just his voice. So something is preventing her from being able to find out information about this boy. So it will be interesting to see when she will discover who this boy is. Because clearly it's something big. Once they arrive back at the house, they all gather, getting ready because they need to sing this ballad in order to open the door. However, Jen realises that there's still one witch missing, which Agatha needs to go and find. And so she calls on her neighbour Sharon to come and help. So then they're all singing in the basement, singing the song, while the boy is upstairs keeping watch. And we find that the Salem 7 have finally arrived to finally try and claim Agatha, because they said they were coming at sunset and they've arrived. So while all the witches are in the basement singing, they are attacking upstairs. Once the chant and ballad is done, the door doesn't immediately appear, and Agatha sort of reveals sort of a sneaky true intention of getting all the other witches angry by mocking them to see if they would strike her. Then she'd have a little bit of power to defend herself against the Salem 7, which unfortunately doesn't work for her. However, the door does end up appearing, which, once the Salem 7 attack, come into the house, they all vacate through the door, which then the entrance disappears, meaning that they're now trapped on the road. So they've got no choice but to walk down the road. And that is pretty much how the episode ends. They are all on the road, all making their journey. It's very like Wizard of Oz-esque in the end. The second episode is quite interesting as well. It's great seeing Agatha be Agatha, but I will admit I was a bit more interested in Agnes. But I did like the style of story. It did feel quite well paced, because sometimes these sort of things can drag really. But no, it was very well paced. Visually, it was quite nice as well. I'm really looking forward now that they're on the road, to see where it goes from here. Because up until now, we've been mostly just stuck in Westview again. But it was very, very nice to see Agatha again. And I think this cast and crew of characters are going to be a fun bunch. So I would say I'd probably give this episode an 8. It was a little bit better for me than episode 1. I like that style of storytelling. I just, did like Agnes as a character. But obviously Agatha is the star. And she's going to be brilliant as well. So I'm glad she's got this chance to shine, really. And the song, the ballad song that they were singing was really good as well. I enjoyed it. I was even singing along by the end. So yeah, and that's a bit unusual for me, really. But I really did. I quite liked it. So I'm glad that this is looks like it's going to be another MCU show that will be more of an up than a average or a meh, really. But yeah, so that is episodes 1 and 2 of Agatha All Along. So I'll be looking forward to when episode 3 drops next week. I will be doing reviews on all these episodes as they come out, so stay tuned for those. So next week I will do a review on episode 3. So I hope you did enjoy this video. If you did, please like it, give it a thumbs up, comment your thoughts. Did you watch Agatha All Along? Are you going to watch the rest of the series? And if you're new to this channel, please subscribe, as it really does help me out a lot. But for now, This is the Nerdy Grail signing out. Beware of Agatha Harkness, everyone. I'll see you next time.